Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. We've got more spring training and World Baseball Classic updates for you, plus an interview with NBC Sports Bay Area's new San Francisco Giants host, Kylin Mills. Stay tuned. It's going to be one of the faces you see a lot this season as you enjoy San Francisco Giants baseball. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Why Mancini's? What separates us from others? The Rest Easy Promise. That means 365-night comfort guarantee, free next-day delivery and old mattress removal, best price guarantee, and 0% financing for 60 months. You won't find this combination of benefits anywhere else. It's comfort, convenience, and confidence all rolled into one. Stop by or visit online at sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, the Giants still absolutely rolling through spring training, best record in cactus or grapefruit leagues with a run differential double the second team, which would be the Dodgers. So I'm just penciling in World Series now.
Have they clinched the Cactus League yet?
I think they have to have.
It's got to be close, right?
Yes.
Everyone always goes like 13-12, and here they are 13-2 or something like that. So
13-2 right here in a week into March. I'm raising the banner.
I think the losses were back-to-back too, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
Yeah. I've been there twice. I came home briefly. I have not seen a loss.
Look at you.
So, which is the opposite of long stretches of my career in the last 9 years.
Yeah. Obviously a meaningless stat, but imagine if it was the opposite, Alex. Imagine if they were 2-13, the meltdowns we'd be seeing. So it's giving us, it's sparing us from those at least.
It is a great point. I've seen some stuff online and some just trying to judge Tony on what's happening. I'm like, there's nothing to judge. They're not pinch hitting. They're not, they're not making actual relief moves. But it is a great point that if it were 2-13, it would be very easy to hop on the other side.
Yes.
Not for us, but for people.
Because of that, I am hopping on this is a really meaningful stat for now.
Go for it.
Nitty-gritty wise, though, let's dive in a little deeper. Who do we want to start with? What about Bryce Eldridge, who's going to be, I don't know, one of the big decision-making things of how 2026 looks for the Giants?
I think we always have to start with Bryce. Because I think everything goes downhill from there.
Yeah,
so
because of how tall he is.
Yes. And also, we've said this here. I know I've said it other places in writing and YouTube videos and things like that. I think their decision with him that'll decide multiple other decisions on whether you have this DH first base situation early in the year, plus Arias, who we know is not very versatile and doesn't run very well, or whether you don't, and whether it's like an Encarnacion or Schmidt or somebody like that getting time at DH early in the year. So I think there are probably multiple other people. There's not just one man waiting to take his job if he gets sent to AAA.
Yeah.
Thought he had a good week. He continues to look just, we talked about our last podcast. I think we led the last podcast with him. But just the week he had he faces Paul Skeens, and then the next night, I believe we recorded on Wednesday morning. So the night game where your dad goes, he hits 112 last night, and he hits 113 mile per hour double off a lefty on Wednesday night. That was 4 feet off the ground and just got all the way to the wall before anyone could move. 109 mile per hour triple off the batter's eye on Friday. I was there for that one. That's a weird batter's eye because it's 430 feet out and I don't know how tall, but it's getting it out of there. Arizona makes it a little bit easier, but getting out of there.
He's in the heat.
Yeah, most places that is a home run for him. He ends up with a triple because the center fielder thought it was a home run. Overall, 947 OPS, 1 homer, 1 triple, 3 doubles. Also 10 strikeouts and 25 at-bats. So if they're looking for a reason, there's one thing that you could point to. But I think he's generally has had a good approach. The defense has looked better. And he is playing a ton. He's playing every single day pretty much. Home and road. He's coming off the bench sometimes. He's gotten a lot of run here and continues to be for me. I mean, it's March 9th right now. The biggest decision I have to make in the next 2 weeks is what they do with him.
Right now, looking at that 947 OPS, versus the 10 strikeouts, do we feel more or less likely that he starts the season in San Francisco?
I think the week he just had and some of the at-bats he had, and some of the at-bats he had against lefties in particular, that to me was pretty impressive and should make it a little bit more likely. We're also seeing like he looks better on defense, but then there's still places he needs to work on. So it is like what you expect from a 21-year-old who hasn't played a whole lot in the minor leagues. For me, this is kind of where it was a few weeks ago that I would like to see him on the roster. I think he's probably, if you have him down in the lower third of the lineup and just let him go out there with no pressure and focus on having good at bats and providing some power, it's an additive to this team. I also think the people in the front office who think he needs more time in AAA, they have just as strong a case as they had a few weeks ago. So
yeah, striking out in almost half of your at-bats against spring training pitchers is tough when there's already kind of a cadre or an argument to be made that you need more time to simmer.
And it doesn't, like when you watch, and I know a lot of these games aren't televised, but when I watch him, it doesn't look like that. Like it's not quick strikeouts. But yeah, there's still, I think both sides have an equal argument that they did a few weeks ago. And I talked to some people on, Wednesday, Thursday when I was in Scottsdale, genuinely think they have not made up their mind and they're not even like too stressed about this one. Cause the word I got was just like, you know what, the lineup looks good. And if that's right now, that's the only decision you have to make. It's a pretty good place to be. There are bigger concerns on this roster.
Well, we'll keep an eye out, see if Bryce manages to play his way into an opening day call up. Anyone else playing their way into something serious here?
Yeah, right after Bryce is Matos the other day, and he does the same thing. He hits one off the same batter's eye, then he actually hits a home run later in the game. Has had a good spring, is out of options. I kind of had been leaning towards they need that, maybe a Grant McRae type on the bench, a little bit of speed. I do think Matos, when I say like multiple guys who could be impacted by Bryce, like if Bryce goes back to AAA, I think it's pretty automatic that you keep Matos and just see what you have there, and you have an extra spot to work with. Where it becomes a little tough for him is if you only have 4 outfielders and you kind of go like, he's not really, I know he's played a lot of center field. I don't view him as a center fielder. Not really a plus defender. So not somebody you're going to like use as a defensive replacement. Doesn't really run. So there's not that as well. The one thing I think he has going for him right now is he's had a good spring. He's out of options, and he's been better than Encarnacion, who's also out of options. He finally got going a little bit on Saturday, but he's had a rough spring. So right now, I think it's pretty clear who the better of those two has been, and one of them's 24, and still potentially has a ton ahead of him. The other one's been around a little bit, so I think that's the best thing he has going for him right now.
What does you got these two guys both vying for a spot that may or may not be open to them, both out of options. What does April 1st look for these two either way? Like, do the Giants start to think about trades? Do they, if they don't make the team, what does this look like?
Yeah, we always do the trade thing, and then you actually just end up at the end almost always seeing these guys just get cut at the end of camp. And like I asked a lot about Marco last year, and it was just like there's nothing there. Like there's nothing to be there's nothing to be acquired for him. So he gets DFA'd. Most often that is the case. I think with both of these guys, this time of year, you're looking for reasons to keep guys in that situation. And so if you're Matos, that's a big day on Friday or Thursday. Friday, I think. You're giving people reasons to kind of the people in the front office who are banging the table and saying, hey, don't give up on the 24-year-old. And if you're Encarnacion, somebody who they've liked and have tried to get involved the last couple of years and just hasn't been able to stay healthy, you need to give them reasons to keep you. So, again, it's March 9th here. There's like, even though we're going to allow them to print the Cactus League banner, there's a fair amount of baseball to be played for these guys. But Matos definitely had a good week.
One of the names we've talked about a good amount is Blade Tidwell. Came over as part of the Tyler Rogers trade with to the Mets. Also has a history with Tony Vitello, just like Drew Gilbert, played for the Tennessee Volunteers under him. But he's not been playing his way onto the team the same way that Matos has been.
No, his first outing was electric. And his first outing, he looked like a future closer. It was a rough week for him. The Team USA outing, he got touched up. Well, you cross that off. You go whatever. Yeah, like we've seen what's on the other side there.
That's like if these are all exhibition games, that's a double exhibition.
Yeah, and then Sunday 1 2/3, 5 hits, 4 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. I will hand up. Did not watch the game, so I don't know actually how it went for him. But I was there for the Team USA scrimmage and watched that. And, I'll put these guys, a lot of these young guys are in the same boat. Like, are you going to force the issue, or is it really easy to option you to AAA and put you in the rotation? And for me, there's one guy who has forced the issue, and that's Trevor McDonald. And he's kind of like, you watch everybody and they keep going through these turns of the rotation and keep getting guys out there in relief. And it's just pretty clear he's one of their best 13. And pretty clear to me. I mean, it's similar to, we've made the Roop comparison. I would also make the Birdsong comparison to last year, where he loses that spring competition and you go, well, he's still one of your best dudes. So McDonald's the one guy I think they have to find a spot for. Wisenhunt was better this last time out. There might be an opportunity for him, but the Birdsongs, the Tidwells, those guys, like, they haven't really shown that they need to be on the opening day roster. And remember, they're going to have to keep some of these guys stretched out because they're going to need starters. And especially if you end up shortening things with somebody like McDonald, because you just feel like you need him in your bullpen. I think that's the case with some of these other guys. Will just be headed for the AAA rotation. So Tidwell has some more time, but certainly it's been different than the first time out, where you just kind of go like, can you just put that guy in the 8th inning right now?
He's there. Yeah. I'm really starting to worry about the bullpen for regular season. I know we've talked about it. It's been why didn't they sign guys? Why didn't they solve this earlier? I was just kind of like, felt like they were going to get to it. And now that opening day is rapidly approaching, it is sinking in.
Let me tell you, Cole, many people in the organization have similar thoughts about concerns. And I think the general feeling is that, and I don't actually disagree with this, that ultimately they will be fine, that there are enough good young arms here, and the pitching infrastructure with the guys they brought in and with Jesse Chavez and with Patrick Bailey is good enough that ultimately they will be fine in the bullpen. I don't think you can say that for April. And I think there's a lot of concern about early in the year and like kind of what the trial and error will look like. And the result of that, as we know, in a bullpen is 2 things. One, you probably lose some games because of that, because you threw a guy out there in the 8th inning and just turns out he wasn't the guy for the 8th. And 2, for Tony Vitello, who will be judged in large part on his ability to win those games, they didn't do many favors. So, your concern is well warranted. That it continues to just be the main thing going into opening day. Just like, lineup's healthy. We'll get to the WBC guys; they're doing a nice job. And Hauser's up to 96 the other day. Malley's 94. Roop has looked good. They feel good about their rotation. But the bullpen it is a real question mark heading towards March 25th.
Well, we're talking about pitching. I guess that's as good a time as any to talk about health, because we have had some health issues that have popped up since our last podcast, including an update on Joel Peguero. What do we got on the injury front?
Yeah, not great for him. It's a grade 2 hamstring strain. He had the hamstring early in camp and felt fine. It was kind of just they were being cautious. Grade 2's serious. That's like you're out opening day. That is, that's measured in weeks and going beyond a month usually. We haven't gotten real specifics about a timeline, but he's going to be out a bit. And I didn't fully have him in my opening day bullpen as I kind of pieced it together. I think last year, some of it was really impressive, and some of it, I think there were warning signs. And there wasn't enough of a track record before that. Like he really struggled in the first half last year in AAA. So there wasn't enough of a track record where I just automatically put him in that group. I know some people maybe went into camp thinking like, that guy might be the closer or something like that. But I didn't have him in that mix. I think now it'll take some time for him to get back. And but just a layer of depth that I think from the right side they can figure it out. But the real killer here is the left side, where they have 4 lefties on their 40-man roster, and San Martin goes to the WBC and gets hurt right away. He's
brutal.
So it's not like a major injury, but it sets him back a little bit. And Eric Miller has not thrown in a game yet. There's some lower back tightness, and Sam Hedges is not going to be ready for opening day. He's still rehabbing. He hasn't thrown in a game yet as well. So they have one guy right now, Matt Gage, who is, he's in a pretty nice spot heading into opening day. I think there's some other guys. Wisenhunt, like I mentioned, threw better. He's on the 40-man, so you can use him early in the year. Maybe Juan Sanchez is back from TJ. He's thrown pretty well, and I know Tony likes him. I liked watching him the other day. He was, after every strike, like demonstrably nodding, like, yeah, that was a strike. So, like, there's a little swagger there. But again, a guy who just hasn't totally done it. So you start thinking about like that opening weekend and going to San Diego after that, and some of those early matchups. Like, you can get by a few days. They really kind of, once they get a little bit deeper and you think about even that next homestand, like the Phillies coming in, like who's going to face Harper in the 7th inning?
Yeah.
So right now they don't really have an answer for
it. San Martin got hurt fielding a line drive coming back at him, right?
Yeah, it was a hip thing. I mean, we don't have a full update there. But again, just like, it's always a calendar thing. It's like, hey, you're getting into the second week here of March, and that's somebody like Miller, like he does have time to get back, and certainly we've seen what he's capable of. But you start getting towards within like 9-10 days of coming home. You want to see guys out there.
Yeah, and I guess this is like exactly what managers fear when players leave to put on other uniforms to represent their country for the WBC. Yeah. It's one thing if that happens in Scottsdale, but to see your guy go down playing elsewhere, it's got to hurt extra.
Yeah, I mean, I think, most of the fear in this tournament is related to like arm things with ramping up too fast. But yeah, it's they've had a couple scares. I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee rolled his ankle the other night during like an exhibition, a scrimmage or something like that. He was fine, but like, yeah, they're holding their breath every time out. So
even just seeing Harrison Bader go horizontal to try to catch something in the outfield, it's like, we don't need to go 100%, buddy.
Also, like, we did like multiple podcasts on how good the outfield defense is going to be now. So yeah, it hasn't been.
Yeah, you're letting balls by your teammates, man.
It was a little help there for Luis Arias.
Well, with that, do we want to talk World Baseball Classic, or is there any other Scottsdale Giants topics we want to get to? I know Josué Gonzalez got to play shortstop.
Yeah, I was crushed by this because I flew home on Friday to spend the weekend with the family and do swim classes with my 2-year-old and all that. And Saturday morning, I wake up and I see the lineup going to Salt River, and I see him at shortstop. And I'm like, I would be right behind the plate in the scout section with my phone out, just recording everything he did.
All the content you missed.
Yeah, he was. I think he went 1 for 3 infield single, 30.5 sprint speed down the line. So we know he can fly. I think we saw some of that. Nothing too crazy, except for the fact that he's a teenager and he's playing in Cactus League games, and he will play in the spring breakout game. Luis Hernandez will play in the spring breakout game. Kind of interesting mix of like a bunch of guys like Bryce and Trevor McDonald in Parks Harbor, and then these young guys, Level and Hernandez and Gonzalez. And cool to see that they've gotten some run in spring training. And I'm just really curious to see, we've had Randy on here and he's talked about being cautious with guys, but they're also pushing these teens a little bit. So interested to see how much time they get in the ACL and how quickly the Giants go like, hey, go to San Jose and figure it out.
Yeah. Following this one closely, and it's always cool to see them get an at bat, some playing time, and all that in Scottsdale.
Should we commit to like an on location pod if those two kids are in San Jose at some point?
I am absolutely willing to commit.
What is it? Turkey? What's the barbecue place there?
They have such good barbecue down there. I mean, Carmen Q and I went 2 seasons ago. And it was fabulous.
We'll do it. We'll go. Yeah. We'll have a little meetup.
Okay, great. Well, with that, let's talk World Baseball Classic. You already mentioned Arias. The contact hitter the Giants signed is really showing a different skill set, just putting home runs out every chance he gets. 2 home runs and 5 RBIs on Saturday.
What if that's just him?
I hope it is. And it's just the best defense you've ever seen in your life.
There's only 2 possibilities here. There is Luis Arias hits like 14 home runs and wins a batting title, and it's just a victory lap for everyone who's on that side of it. Or he has like 2 homers through the first half, and it's like, remember when he hit 2 and 3 at bats in the WBC?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a middle ground here, but it looks good.
And it has been cool just seeing Giants pop up with all their respective teams. You know, I'm seeing Jung-Hoo Lee highlights like crazy. We're getting the Arias home run highlights, and then I just keep getting fed like bloop singles by Jung-Hoo Lee. But he is also like kind of just the star of the show over there for Team Korea, leading the pregame stretches and all that.
Yeah, he's the captain. Logan pitched well, gave up a leadoff homer to Manny Ramirez's kid of all people, right? I think.
Of course.
And then after that, 6 strikeouts, no more hits. That kid has homers off Logan Webb and Jacob deGrom in the last like 10 days.
Wow.
So I was trying to find his like prospect profile, and he's like not even a top 30 guy in a bad Angels system. So
yeah, check again in a week.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't really care what you have on the number 20 through 30 guys. Like this is he needs to be higher.
Yeah.
That game was it was a Contreras' kid pitching that as well.
Yeah.
So that was a make you feel old situation for
it's even just the discussions we were having last week about Bryce Harper being like the old guy who could represent in the Olympics was making me feel old. The years are flying by, Alex.
I was flying home and I'm like, what do you mean Manny Ramirez's kid? What are we talking about here? So
exactly.
I guess we're just going to have to get used to that.
Yeah.
Well, you know who's going to do it is going to be Gregor Blanco's kid plays baseball and is pretty good. And when he shows up in the draft, I'm going to, if he does, that's just going to be it for me.
That'll be the one that's like, it's time to start looking to retire.
It's retirement time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, our next Logan Webb appearance is going to be in the quarterfinal. So keep an eye on that. And, WBC's chugging along. How's your team, your Czech team going?
I think they've been beaten so badly that they have to like requalify 3 years from now instead of just getting to be part of the Europe. But I did enjoy the manager had a quote that I saw where they asked him about his pool and he said, "Some mornings I am brave and some mornings I want to run home." And I'm like, at least he admits it. So
yeah, cross stitch that and put that up in your house. I love that.
I think it's much more realistic than Team Mexico's manager who said something like, "We're gonna have the greatest moment in sports history," or stuff. But it's been fun. It's been a fun tournament, and I think you see like the Dominican lineup and just see where this is headed. Just maybe 3 teams standing at the end. So
yeah, we talked about the Olympics and WBC a lot last episode, and I will tell you, I had one of our listeners chime in and say he was quite upset with our suggestion that the Olympics just put the favorites in a pool. Because he said Team Australia has won the gold in baseball and he's held one of those gold medals.
They've also weirdly been good. Not weirdly. I mean, they've been good pitching staff in this WBC. Yeah. They're like doing a nice job over there. So, no, we can expand to like 8. So,
right.
We don't need 4, maybe.
No,
I don't know that. All due respect to Team Czechia, I don't know that they need to be in the Olympic tournament. So,
but if they won it all, if they won the gold, that would make a hell of a story.
That's that's part of the Olympics too, is you get these people like swimming against Michael Phelps who finished 2 laps behind him in the prelims. So it's part of it.
Oh, I'll never forget the big Phelps year when UCSB's Jason Lezak was the hero of it all. And he beat that French guy who he had no chance of competing against.
Those are real. Like I'm talking the guys who get to go from like Morocco.
Just end up shoulder to shoulder with.
Yeah, they're in lane 8 in the prelims, and so that's
That's fair.
I think our point was like, if baseball doesn't want to take 2 weeks off, I wish they would take 2 weeks off.
That's it. I just think the countries who are heavily represented in Major League Baseball just get like a bye and go straight to the tournament. And all the other countries can duke it out to make it into that tournament.
A little early action. Yeah,
exactly.
It could be I like that.
Yeah. All right. We have mailbag questions. We have a little interview with the new face of Giants baseball on NBC Sports Bay Area. But first, how about we remember a couple of guys, check in on familiar faces around the league who might not be with the Giants anymore.
Yeah. I went and saw Kyle Harrison last week. I have a story about that on our website. He's doing great. He landed in the perfect spot. He, on Sunday, struck out 8 in 3 innings.
Okay.
Gave up 2 runs. I think one was earned.
That's the Kyle Harrison I remember. Fastball
is up to 97 both times out in the last week. So he has a new changeup, which actually is the same grip that Hayden Birdsong uses. But anyway, I don't want to step on the whole story, but went and talked to him and talked about that trade and what's new for him. And I just think he landed in a perfect spot. And, being around that team for a morning in Milwaukee and talking to some people there and some people in the front office and, some of the media there, like, he's been really impressive and seems like he's going to get a real shot here in the rotation. And you kind of go through their history and it's like, this is what they do. So I think we've said this, like, we're rooting for him. And I hope he's next in the line of, like, it's like, who's that guy in Milwaukee who has a 2.87 ERA?
Yep.
And just a real interesting, I hadn't fully pieced together like the Red Sox. I mean, I kind of had, but until I fully thought about it, Red Sox signed Bregman, and then they have to trade Devers because they don't have to, but they trade Devers because they signed Bregman.
Yep.
And then they trade 3 of the 4 guys from that deal, and they trade Kyle 4 infielders because Bregman signed with the Cubs. Like, just a, fascinating series of events. And I think Caleb Durbin's a good player, but they better hope he's a really good player and Kyle doesn't like bust out in Milwaukee, because that whole trade is just.
Have they hit on any trades in the last 10 years? I mean, I feel like the Red Sox are just getting this reputation for getting absolutely swindled.
Yeah, it's just a strange, like, I don't think Giants fans should ever. I think you should be happy for Kyle, and I don't think you should ever be like, oh man, he got away. Like, it was the price of doing business to get Rafael Devers to San Francisco.
Exactly.
And I think Devers is going to be really, really good for a long time. He looked incredible before he got hurt this spring. But if I were a Red Sox fan, I'd be on edge a little bit, just like that. Because you don't want then the centerpiece to go somewhere else. And also, like, James Tibbs is probably going to be in AAA. So that, for the Giants, it's the cost of doing business to get Devers. But if you're a Red Sox fan and you end up with like Caleb Durbin out of all this and Harrison's in the rotation, it's
Well, read that whole story and Alex's catch up with Kyle Harrison on NBCSportsBayArea.com. Anyone else? I know who we have. David Villar
signed with the team in Mexico. So hat tip David, classic remembering some guys.
Yep. That is back remembering some guys back to its roots. International signings and what are they doing after their baseball careers.
And I like when people sign with teams in Latin America, because oftentimes there's not a lot of information about the team. So you're just kind of going through and you're like, oh, Wikipedia says CJ Hinojosa plays there. So I don't know if he still does, but he was a former Giants prospect as well. So double remembering some guys.
Fabulous. All right. I want to get to our mailbag questions, Alex. We have a handful for today. But before we get started on those, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World offers high-quality mattresses for ultimate comfort and support, so you wake up energized and refreshed every morning. Plus, in addition to their Rest Easy promise, they have ongoing deals on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, starting at $29 a month, Avocado, Helix, and more. Rest easy at Mancini Sleep World. Stop by or visit online at sleepworld.com.
By the way, they were at Mancini's people were at one of the games last week, and they had nice jerseys with Mancini's on the back, and I think you need one of them.
I will, if I got my hands on one of those, I would wear it to every game.
I think it has to be done. City Connect version. So
now you're talking.
Yeah.
All right, Alex. I think before we get into the formal questions, do we want to follow up on one of last week's questions?
Oh yeah, someone asked us about the fungos and Tony and all that, and I asked Bruce Bochy, and I was like, I never saw you hit that many fungos. And he's like, I did in the 90s and early 2000s. So
yeah,
need to pay our respects to him and Bob Melvin as well, because we're like, they were older when they were here, but they did do the Tony thing at some point in their 40s. So
I also got at least one message saying, what the hell is a fungo? And that was one of those things that growing up around baseball just is a ubiquitous term. But a fungo is just a squattier bat that you hit ground balls to practice with.
Skinnier, longer. Yeah. It's like, it looks like a walking cane a lot of times when guys have it. And it is basically like an extension of infield coaches. They, I don't think I've ever seen, aside from TV, don't think I've ever seen Ron Wotus without his fungo.
Yeah, it's easier way to him just like walking his dog. He's got a fungo in the other hand.
Fungo. Probably, yeah.
Probably. All right, our first question today is from Michelle. Michelle says, it used to be at least a couple big names were taken to all away games in spring training. Did MLB change the rules on that? It seems like all the away games I've been to this year, there's maybe a pitcher, but that's it.
Yeah.
And I believe, Michelle, this has to do with the WBC going on. So many of the big league players and stars are pulled away from their teams that the MLB kind of waives this rule during WBC years. I don't know. Is it even like a formal rule? What are the logistics of this?
It's one of those weird ones. And I think it became really hard. Even from my perspective, like covering the team, you get into like kind of the platoon years and it's like, well, did they send enough guys? And well, we said Austin Slater is hitting leadoff. And I'm like, he's kind of a fourth outfielder, but
but he's a big leaguer.
He's our center fielder. So it became a little blurred. I will say, I think it's gone too far. And it's these games are not always the cheapest, especially like weekends in some of these, Scottsdale Stadium, Cubs Place. And it's become pretty automatic that some of the veterans just do not make a trip the entire spring or make.
Yeah, they don't even pack like away pants.
Yeah, and I will say this: some of them have joked about not even getting like the away jersey in recent years. And look, I am somebody who sometimes will plan my schedule around some of these. Like, do I want to stay an extra day and go to Peoria, or just fly home after the Scottsdale game? So I get it. I also am not why people are buying tickets. And, I'm also not making $20 million. So I think it's gone a little bit too far. And Major League Baseball should probably bring the hammer down. We'll see what next spring looks like. But one of these years should probably bring the hammer down a little bit and be like, it's okay for the stars to travel to Maryville a couple times. Like, it won't kill them. So
At the same time, though, wouldn't you rather see Josué Gonzalez in an away game? You personally?
I would, yeah. I think when you're, we see some of the lineups, and I've seen some of the lineups that came to Scottsdale Stadium this spring, and I'm just like, I don't even know 7 of these dudes. So
that's why when we talk about that 13-2 record, it's very tongue in cheek.
I mean, everyone's doing it. I just like it. It strikes me as like a bit of a slap in the face to your fans to not be like, can you send one dude out there? Can you send like your number 5 hitter? You do something. So I'd like to see that change.
All right. That's fair. All right. We have a mailbag question from someone whose name we lost in the shuffle. Thank you, unintentionally anonymous submitter. Is it unprecedented for an international signing to play in a game this quickly? You mentioned all of the Giants felt he was talented enough to skip the DSL, but appearing in this game already feels special.
I think we're talking to Luis Hernandez and just jumping straight over, which is something we talked about in the offseason. The Giants, the people who signed him were hopeful he would just jump straight into the ACL and skip the Dominican Summer League, and that's what he will do, and potentially be in San Jose at some point this summer. We'd have to go through, and I'll make it a homework assignment for myself, go through some of the not just the Giants' top international guys. This is this is something they haven't done with anybody for a while. But some of the better, some of the young guys who reach the big leagues pretty quickly. Some of the like the Soto types, like those types, and see what it looked like for them. But it is very, very rare to do what Hernandez is doing and just jump straight to Arizona. And
at what, 17 years old?
He could be 17 years old in low A ball this year.
Yeah.
Like which even if you take it really slow with him and go, okay, 18 you do high A, 19 you do double A. Like you have a 19-year-old in double A who's like trying to bang the door down.
Yeah.
It shows you how special they think he is. It is very, very rare what he's doing. And it is even a level above what like Joshua did. So and that's been quick. So yeah, he's a special talent.
Yeah. Yeah. We always talk about how weird it is getting so hyped up on prospects because the runway is so long to the big leagues and you never know if trades or what can happen. But I'm a sucker for it. I get giddy.
Yeah, I do too. It's fun. I mean, it's these are the caliber, and then you can throw the number 4 pick in that as well. These are going to be it wouldn't be a shock. I will say this. It wouldn't be a shock if both Gonzalez and Hernandez and the number 4 pick at some point end up ranking like higher on prospect lists than even Eldridge has. Like this is the kind of pedigree you're talking about. And so the fact that this is all happening at once for the Giants, and look, none of them, it could be that none of them make it, but this is something to be excited about. Like this is high quality talent.
Yeah. All right. One more question before we get to today's interview with Kylin Mills. A few people have asked, we can't even credit it to one person. What happened to the torpedo bats? There was a stint in April and May of last year when all we could talk about on this podcast, and I'm sure similar podcasts across the league, was the magical, mythical torpedo bat.
So people sometimes ask me why I'm like other writers be like, why are you still like looking at your Twitter mentions occasionally and looking at DMs? Like, what? It's toxic out there a lot. Sometimes you get good ideas, and I had multiple people ask me last month where the torpedo bat. So I went and wrote a story about it, and it's on our website right now. And where the torpedo bats, they're not in the Giants clubhouse. There's one guy who uses them. That's Logan Porter. Nobody on the 40 man's using them. Patrick Bailey and Tyler Fitzgerald were the 2 main guys last year. Fitzgerald had both of his break in 1 inning at Petco Park. Bailey broke one of them, and he just never. He was like, all right, I didn't love it anyway. So he's out. Bailey was trying everything last year, and he's back to normal bat. And from what I heard, 12 guys ended up using it, which actually, when you think about how it's not actually 12 of 26, it's 12 of the position player group. Almost every hitter on the team experimented, and none of them are still doing it. So it was a fad. And the main takeaway I got, just informal looking at the clubhouse, talking to people, they're like, yeah, I think everyone just kind of realized that was the Yankees having a wild weekend against not great pitching. Yeah, it was like Nestor Cortez and some other people, and it kind of faded away. So it has led to some, I talked to a bat vendor who was there, and he's like, every person I've ever worked with has called me within 36 hours just saying I need one of these. And now there's none of it. But it did lead to some of the, you take some of the stuff they were doing with where on the barrel are you hitting the ball. Some of that is still being incorporated, and some of the barrels are still a little bit bigger. But yeah, the torpedoes are they disappeared.
I did some looking into this a while back, and the thing that surprised me was one guy who's still using them, Cal Raleigh Jr.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least was last year in his arguably MVP season.
Yeah. I mean, Jazz was one of those guys who was using it quite a bit. It's a weird thing. Just
it's like you ever watch a TV show and they bring a new plot line in and then it just completely fizzles out. That's what it feels like. The writers for last year tried something and it didn't work.
I think baseball is especially susceptible to this. You just, what was the guy in New York? He had the ghost fork or whatever, and it's everyone's like, oh, the ghost fork pitch, whatever it was. You have these pitches every once in a while, and we were talking to Christian Wonders, one of the new pitching coaches, about everyone throwing a cutter, and he's like, it's really just Like, it's nothing crazy. It's just like basically a traditional like gyro slider. Like it's not this new magical pitch. It's just so a lot of this just kind of circles back.
Well, I can't wait to see what they cook up next.
Something
interesting is coming our way in 2026. Yep. With that, Alex, let's get to Kylin Mills. And in the meantime, maybe give a little love to Laura Britt, who longtime listeners of Giants Talk will know stepped into podcast with me when you abandoned me for a winter. It was a really weird winter, I'm sure, for you and for me. That was Ohtani signing,
Yamamoto.
Oh man,
that
was a rough winter.
Picked a hell of a time to have a kid.
You really did. You really did.
I think I texted you guys after Ohtani signed. I was like, I want to jump in, but I just can't. So Laura is she announced this on Friday. She has been here a long time. I think 8 years at NBC Sports Bay Area. Did the Giants pre and post the last few years. Has done a lot with me. Our TV Giants Talk shows. She was always heavily involved in those. She is going back to. She's from the South. She's going back to Atlanta with her family this summer. They're going to move back there. Very excited for her, just personally, and what's ahead of her. I just want to thank her for everything she did, not just stepping in when, as you mentioned, I disappeared for 4 months and changed diapers. Her stepping in that entire time, but also I've gotten the chance to host a little bit the last few years, and Laura could not have been more helpful in it's not always the case in this industry. It can be a cutthroat competitive thing, and she could not have been more helpful and open, and I could not have done that without her. And I just an awesome person, an awesome teammate. Did all of this with a bunch of kids running around, and I think my biggest compliment for her is like she just makes it look so easy on TV, and it's not. So she'll be missed. Just wanted to shout her out. Very excited to work with Kylen. We've had her down in Scottsdale, and I think a lot of great things coming. But we did want to shout out Laura on the way out and just thank her for everything she did for this podcast and for us.
Yeah, Laura is absolutely awesome. She will be missed. Kylen's got some big shoes to fill, but I'm excited to see what this chapter of NBC Sports Bay Area Giants coverage looks like with her at the helm.
Yeah, it's we wanted to have her on here, and it's announced today, obviously, and people get to know her a little bit. She's going to be on. Weirdly, we have Netflix that first game, so it's a little bit a wait, but that first home game she'll be there pre and post, and she'll be there all year, and she'll do a lot with us, and so yeah, excited about it and get to know Kylen a little bit. She's familiar with the Bay Area, as you'll see. She's been here, so yeah, she knows a little bit.
With that, here's Kylin Mills.
All right, Kylin Mills, we're going to be spending a lot of time in studio. You're going to learn about rain delays in the Midwest, so get ready for that. But I know I feel the same way when people ask me about myself. I know we don't like giving like our bio, and we think it's boring. But for Giants fans who will watch you every night on pre and post and get to know you, hopefully for years to come, can you give like a short version of, and you can be long if you want, but the short version of like what your background is, where you came from, what you were doing when you took this job, all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to give the condensed version. First of all, this is a return to the Bay Area for me. If my name sounds or looks familiar, or I look familiar at all, you may have seen me on your TV at some point, because I did work for 2 years at Cron TV and then worked for an additional year filling in at NBC Sports Bay Area and working at the Pac-12 Network. So I'm super excited, first of all, to be coming back to the Bay because we love the Bay. My background personally in sports, like I grew up playing every single sport, was raised in the Chicago area in a family of insane sports fans, and actually moving to the Bay, I felt like it was very comparable to kind of the culture in Chicago in terms of just like how passionate and knowledgeable the fans are, how big the professional sports scene is, and just like kind of the strength of the brand. So I felt right at home when I first moved to the Bay for that reason. But then, like I said, growing up, played every sport, played soccer and tennis in college at the Division II level at Lewis University. Shout out, go Flyers. No one's ever heard of that, but it's fine. And then after that, I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting. I'd done it a little bit in high school and was like, trying to figure out how to incorporate sports into a career of talking. I was the kid who always got in trouble for talking in class. So how do you kind of marry those strengths together? And started out in local news, kind of bounced around, which is how it works in local TV, is that, you work your way up to different markets. So I worked in a bunch of different markets, the Quad Cities, Lexington, Kentucky, Oklahoma City, and then ended up at Cron 4 News in the Bay Area before, like I said, kind of branching out and working at sports networks. And now I'm currently in Chicago, now relocating obviously to the Bay, but was most recently in Chicago working at the Big Ten Network and for a bunch of different Fox Sports, a bunch of different national outlets kind of covering the college baseball scene. But I'm super excited to be back because I love the Bay Area. I love Bay Area sports fans. And like I said, similar to Chicago, very passionate, very knowledgeable, amazing teams. Oracle Park's one of the most beautiful ballparks in the United States. So I just think it's a great place to be, and it's a fun team to be around. And I think there's a lot of excitement about kind of the newness of the season.
So you're a Cubs fan.
Yes, I did bury the lead, but I was trying to keep it on the down low, Alex.
Who's your guy? Like, before that, I have to go back. Who's your tennis goat since you played tennis in college?
Oh, yeah, tennis goat. So I'm a Nadal fan when it comes to like Nadal and some of those. But back in the day when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of Andre Agassi, and I love his book. So I don't know. Andre was kind of the guy back in the day. I liked Pete, though, too. Pete Sampras. I kind of liked the little rivalry they had there. I don't know if we've seen a rivalry like that in terms of American tennis players since then, but that was always kind of fun to watch those two battles. So those are a couple of my goats for sure. And for the Cubs, Alex, like I grew up in the Sammy Sosa era. Like there was no better time to be a Chicago Cubs fan as a little kid growing up. My like Chicago Cubs backstory is just that my grandpa was blind, and I used to go over to his house and we would listen to the game. Like I listened to the game with him like every single day. My mom worked, my dad worked, so we used to get watched by my grandparents a lot. And like I would sit and listen to games for like hours and hours and hours on end. And I know there's a lot of Cubs fans too, because WGN obviously used to reach, homes across the nation. So it's kind of funny as I've like moved around, people are like, oh, you're a Cubs fan. But like I said, I love the Giants. So listen, I can have multiple teams, and I'm excited to be in the Bay.
Well, I was a Federer guy, but I'll let that go. So
no.
Okay. We have a lot of people here who are from other places, obviously, and grew up, including most of the actual Giants. I think sometimes that's a shock to people when they're like, oh yeah, I grew up rooting for this guy. So even I enjoy when Logan always reminds people he grew up as an A's fan.
Oh yeah, exactly. I love that.
What is I know you followed the Giants
Red Bulls before games? That's my question. My follow-up question about Logan Webb.
Is he red? I don't know. I think he has changed his preparation a little bit.
Damn it. Back so the last time I was there during the 2021 season, I remember there was like a running joke when they were making the NLDS push about he had a great game and it was because of the Red Bull. But, maybe he's refined the preparation.
He's a little older now. I hope he's not having 3 Red Bulls a game. But I hope you learned from Justin Verlander. I think he did.
Yes.
What is your Giants experience I know you were in the Bay Area for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you were here for the only good season in the last few years, but what's your best Giants memory?
Yeah. So I kind of was thinking about this going to this interview. So I'm like, oh man, I got to cover a really cool time. So I moved to the Bay in 2020, moved out in 23, 24. So I got to cover a couple seasons, and that 2021 season, obviously breaking 100 wins was a big deal. But this is a super random moment, but I just remember it. And you know how the Giants were at that time with all the platooning they did and the mixing and matching. It was kind of crazy. But mid-September, during the NLDS push of 2021, the Giants were playing the Braves. The game went to 11 innings. So it's the 11th inning. The Giants are out of players because they've been, plugging and playing everybody. So Kevin Gausman gets put into pinch hit and has the game-winning sac fly. And the reason why it's one of my favorite memories is I tweeted as he was stepping up. I was like, watch Kevin Gausman hit the game-winning walk-off right now. And then he did it. So I just remember that being so awesome. I tweeted, we're all getting lit tonight in San Francisco. Hey, Kevin Gausman just walked it off for the Giants. But what a wild time to follow the team. I mean, it was a lot of fun, obviously, because they did put together wins. But yeah, the whole platooning business made it quite interesting to follow. You never really knew what was going to happen. And obviously that specific season it worked. But I'm excited to see more stability in the lineup, I think, this year. But that's one of my favorite memories. And I just think in general, Oracle Park, first moving to the Bay, it was just kind of eye-opening. opening and McCovey Cove and kind of getting to know all the personalities and the boaters and the garlic fries, like some of the kind of fun, for fun parts about going to a game at Oracle Park was really cool to experience. So whenever I have people visit or come to town, like if it's during baseball season, like that's always one of our first stops. Like I just think it's such a cool ballpark.
That's one of my least favorite memories from that season because it was like I think the only game I took off during a strush in September.
Oh,
and
no.
I missed the Kevin Gosman walk off. So
it was and like there was like a great energy in the stadium.
I know.
It was rubbing it in here. It was such a good game, and the fans were into it. It was just like I don't know. It was just one of those cool things.
No, it's a great memory for everybody else. I just was sad I didn't get to cover it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You have a lot of college background, so have you? I guess. You probably knew about Tony before I did because most of us had not heard his name until October, basically. Have you had any background with him, and do you have any perspective on him just having dealt with? I haven't covered college sports since 2009, I think, or 10, whatever. Do you have any perspective on that, on what he might do this year?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I'm actually super excited to be joining, the Giants team at NBC Sports Bay Area. I feel like him and I are both coming up from the college ranks. So I worked at the Big Ten Network and for Fox Sports, and mostly covering Big Tens. Like we didn't directly cross paths where I would have been like interviewing him or coming in, covering him in person, but like I hosted the Big Ten baseball tournament. I hosted when our various teams were kind of working their way through the NCAA tournament and trying to make the College World Series. So like I was familiar with him. I'd seen Tennessee, and had followed just in general the college baseball landscape. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm excited. First of all, like his reputation precedes itself, and what he did at the college level was extremely impressive. I think that the culture is going to be really positive with the Giants this season. Then I think that another thing that maybe people don't realize who aren't in the college sports space right now is how much it's changed and that it's essentially professional sports. Like I know there's a lot being made of the fact that like we haven't seen someone make this jump that he's made, and really for him to have an expectation of being successful with this Giants organization. But I do think the college coaching can, prepares you now more than it ever has for working the professional ranks really in any sports, because of the way that NIL, the transfer portal, now revenue sharing has completely changed the game. Like you're managing rosters, you're managing personalities, like players at the college level now, they all want money. They want to get paid. Like talking to college coaches across the spectrum now, like they just talk about how big of a challenge it is in their jobs because they're not just focused on strategy and winning games. They're doing all of the other stuff. Like I said, having to manage, different personalities. And again, like it's almost, there's not necessarily a salary cap, but I mean, there should be, honestly, it's a whole separate conversation. But, having to manage how you're utilizing funds and who you're giving more money to bring back, how you're prioritizing different positions based on the money and the funds that are available. Like there's just a lot more that goes into college coaching now than ever before. You have to try to retain players, like the relationship side of things. It's so much more important because players can come and go so easily in the transfer portal. So I just think it's a super challenging role. Like it's more challenging now than ever. And if you're ever going to, have a coach be prepared from that, I think that Tony's in a good spot to make the move to MLB. And then the last point I'll make on this is just how rabid SEC fans are. And I've lived in SEC country in Lexington, Kentucky, and got to cover the Kentucky Wildcats and some, Kentucky-Tennessee rivalry games. And like those fans have the highest of expectations. They're intense. They know sports. They don't have professional teams there. Like this is everything to them. So that's also kind of a similar culture in terms of the expectation of the fans is that their success and that they're doing things in a professional way. Like this isn't just like rinky-dink college sports. So that also kind of struck me as something comparable, is the fact that like those are areas and fan bases and parts of the country that take college sports extremely seriously, which is a little bit different than at least what I experienced in the Bay, getting to cover the Cals and the Stanfords, at least in the current era where it feels like, professional sports are really dominating. It's a little bit different in the South and parts of SEC and even ACC country. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do. And I just think there does need to be some perspective that, he's been through some stuff, and he's, his accomplishments that have come at the collegiate level have not come easy. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. And it was great getting to chat with him at Giants Media Day. A lot of positive energy. We had to do a commercial where we had to do some acting. So I'll let you guys, just kind of have that be a tease for what you're going to see. He did it in like 1 or 2 takes. Actually, he did it pretty well, but we were both dying laughing the whole time. So he seems great as well to work with from a media perspective. So I'm just super excited. The acting maybe needs a little work, but we can work with it.
I will finish with this because you first of all, that's really good perspective on college and Tony and stuff that we're not used to. I wish there's a lot of like, he talks about Tennessee a lot, but sometimes I also off to the side just want to be like, what was NIL like? Like what?
Yeah.
How much were you paid? How were these guys getting paid? I'm very curious about all that. So maybe over time we'll figure that out. I'll finish with this because Cole does it for every single person that is on our podcast or every single person the Giants sign. And Cole, who works at an animal rescue place, will go and figure out what kind of dogs or cats they have. So I believe you have dogs. So you're on the dog side.
Yes, I love both dogs and cats. So I'm not a cat hater, but I do. I have 2 dogs. They're both rescues as well. Border Collie lab mix named Benny. He kind of has the Border Collie-ish look with black and white fur, but it's like shorter lab-looking fur. And also he's huge. He's 78, 79 pounds. He's been on a weight loss journey. We're working on it. And then my other dog's name is Kuiper. He is he's a mutt of sorts, but he's huge, not because he's overweight. He's just tall and he's large. He weighs somewhere around 90 pounds. So I have 2 very large dogs, rescued them both. I mean, years ago. They're now 10 and 11, which is crazy. And I can't. The preeminent grief is killing me, which is a conversation for another day. But they were like my first dogs. They were like the dogs I got in my mid-20s. You know what I mean? When I like probably shouldn't have had dogs, but like now they've been through all these moves with me and like a marriage and like all of these different jobs and life changes. So they're my people. They're my children. They're my sons.
I know how that is. My dog's 17 pounds, so we will keep him away. That might be too. It's like a couple elephants gonna come stop.
Yeah, so my dogs love other dogs, but they will like at the dog park like charge up to a little dog, and they're like, ooh, and I'm like, I swear they're friendly. They're just really excited, but they like look a little intimidating because they're large. So I totally get it. What kind of dog is it that you have?
He's a little miniature pinscher. Actually, Cole helped us get him, and he's great, but he might get stomped by 90-pound dogs. So
amazing. Yeah, exactly. I understand. This is also a random fun fact about me since we're talking about dogs is that my husband and I did senior dog fostering when we lived in the Bay Area. And I think it's Muttville. Does that sound right?
It is Muttville. Mm-hmm.
So we did senior dog rescuing for a few years when we lived in the Bay. And it was like one of my favorite things ever. So I'm a big proponent for animal rescue and fostering senior dogs. It was just like so sad. They were just always so just like scared and decrepit. So it was amazing to like be able to go through the process of helping them get adopted and stuff. And Muttville is also an awesome organization. So shout out to Muttville. We had a positive experience, unfortunately, when we moved, and now like our dogs are getting senior and they have like ailments. So I'm like, it's getting a little bit difficult to foster, but love the rescue organizations in the Bay. Shout out.
Yeah, Muttville has the best Instagram. So people who have
exactly. Yeah, they do a really good job of posting and stuff. Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to just go over there every day and be like, okay, I'll take 2 of them. But
I know.
We're busy. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Welcome to the team. Excited. We have a season preview show going up this week. And then we're like 2 weeks from opening day. So get settled, get comfortable. It's a long season. So
I currently have nothing unpacked. I have all the things to do, but we're super fired up for the season and can't wait to be a part of the team. Yay.
All right. Thanks, Kylen.